Hi, my name is Don Bowman. I'm the Vice President of Engineering and Operations at Wake Electric, just northeast of Raleigh, North Carolina. We're an electric cooperative serving about 53,000 meters in a very suburban area of the country. We switched to GPS Insight about 4 years ago, mainly because of the ability to integrate with other mapping systems. And so that we could always use the AVL system to find our trucks, but to actually put it on the same maps that our lines and our assets and our key parts of our system made a big difference. So we switched to GPS Insight at that point. A brilliant system for finding, tracking, and tracing truck routes. It wasn't until just recently that GPS Insight introduced Driver Eye, which is the onboard cameras. And we had to make a big decision. Did we want the cameras to face outward and just record the activities outside the truck and forward facing to the truck? Or did we want to go ahead and add the driver facing cameras? And that's a huge cultural change and challenge when we go to do something like that, because of course the first idea is that they're just sitting in the office watching us work. And so we had to overcome that by talking about the challenges we have in our area. You know, we're in an area that is at fast growing pace. I think our utility is currently working with 90 different subdivisions. And when you add that type of growth into an area, are the roads ready for it? Can we handle the traffic issues? And so suddenly our drivers are just in a much more crowded area than they're used to working. We're originally a rural electric cooperative. And we're used to doing farm roads and small town roads. And now suddenly we're surrounded by traffic. And I just think that the population is becoming more crowded and more distracted at the same time. And I thought it was very important for us to start recording the activities and making sure we were protecting our drivers in those situations. And at the same time, giving us a scorecard on our drivers to make sure that we were improving our skills at the same time. We told them it was coming, and we used examples on the roadway. We talked about the benefits that when a traffic accident occurs, that one of the first things the police are asking in this area is, do you have a dash cam? Because that settles all discrepancies in who said what. And if we believe, and it's very easy, I believe, for the general public to always point to that big truck and that big bucket truck that they were crowding me or that. And we want to just make sure we were in our lane, that we weren't distracted. And it at least gives us an accountability to ourselves that we were doing the right thing. At the same time, the beauty of this system is that there are audible alerts that happen based on analytics of the driver themselves. So if one of my drivers breaks policy and uses a cell phone at their ear, then it gives them an audible alarm of distracted driving. They have a short amount of time, maybe 30 seconds, to put that down and go back to normal driving. We think that audible alarm very possibly protects our driver from being distracted longer than they need to and longer than they should. It also just tracks simple things like seat belts. And if I'm telling our folks that this is not to individually reprimand drivers, but the way I introduced this was to say we are going to collectively aggregate the information that we're gathering. And if our dashboard every day says that a large quantity of the alerts come from not wearing your seatbelt, then I can aggregate that into an incentive to say, if we can get that number of alerts based on seatbelts down to 0 at the end of this week, hey, there's a pizza party, or there's a bonus, or there's a reason to do this. And at the same time, we're being safer. We're accountable to the safety policies we've put in place. And we've sort of made everybody accountable to each other if we group them together. So it's been very important not to really focus on individuals at the beginning, but to introduce it in a way that it aggregates everybody's alerts at the same time to bring aware of what the problems really are. One of the things that we have just recently turned on was the ability to recognize individual drivers using facial recognition. And so we can now individualized. Now that we've gotten everybody comfortable with the fact that we are aggregating the data, we can now give the driver their own personal score. This is not for management to study. This is for them to, at the end of every drive, they look at their phone and it tells them how good of driving behavior they had. And it almost becomes a self accountability to say, I want to get that score higher. And while it doesn't tell who the rankings are, at the end of every day, it tells you where you rank in safety. And it's amazing how this suddenly became a gamification of safety, that I want to be the number one. I want to be the best driver. I want to be the safest driver. And if you tell a crew of utility workers, about safety, that's one thing. But when you get them believing that they want to be the best, and put in a friendly competition to it, that gamification just improves everybody's, driving, and it's been great. We have 48 vehicles, and those are primarily line trucks and service trucks, being in the electric utility space. So typically it's the bucket trucks, and quite honestly, they're difficult vehicles to drive. They're heavy and they're difficult to see around. So just giving ourselves that extra safety device really makes a difference in our work. We have had instances where recently we had someone that was just bumped, someone bumped into our truck. And I think it would have been really easy for the other driver to just said, hey, they backed into me. But we have it very, very, very distinctly on camera that we were at a complete standstill. We got bumped. This wasn't a serious accident, of course, but it was just another example. And what I think is also very exciting is that it's not constantly recording and sending video back to management. And we don't have time as management to watch video all day long, and that's not what we're using it for. But if there is an incident, such as someone running a red light or running a stop sign that's not us, we have the ability to hit a button to record 30 seconds to 60 seconds of video and send that back to the management team to say, hey, look what we were up against here. You might want to look at this video. We were crowded by a gas truck or another type of vehicle. And it's almost become, they went from, we don't like that you're watching us, to, hey, did you see that video I sent you? And can you believe that happened? So they're almost really appreciative of the technology, which exceeds our expectations on what to expect when you put cameras on utility workers like that. We expect to have cost savings. We're kind of anxiously watching to see if our insurance providers are going to start to provide incentives and rebates on some of the premiums based on this, because we believe we're becoming better drivers. So maybe we get credit for that in our insurance. So that's yet to be seen. AVL has paid for itself over and over. I don't have dollar figures, but just being able to win it just improves reliability, and our business is based on reliability. How quickly and resiliency, how quickly can we get to a power outage location? Well, if our dispatchers know exactly now where the outage is occurring and know where the closest truck is, it's just a better coordinated effort. So there's some inherent benefits and savings there, hard to quantify in some aspects. From the driver eye aspect of it, I think that's yet to be seen, but we do expect that becoming better drivers is ultimately going to pay for itself over and over again. One car accident or one issue out on the road could very well, take care of any payments that we would make for these services and protect our employees and our company at the same time. There's a lot of times where, from just the GPS and AVL standpoint, there's a lot of times where certain things happen in our territory, and we drive white trucks. And it's very common for someone to say, it was a white truck, it must have been Wake Electric. And to have that sort of breadcrumb trace of where our trucks were that day helps us with our accountability and liability in those situations too. So we use that as much as anything else, just to show where we were and weren't at certain times of the day based on things that happened in our territory. Yeah, so at any time, we have very sophisticated systems that we use called outage management systems, that when a single meter or a single consumer would call in and say, my power is out, these systems immediately use analysis to predict exactly where that scope of that outage is pretty much pinpointing on a map, not on a map, a general map that you'd find on Google Maps, but actually a map of our system that shows the specific assets on our system, such as switches and breakers and those sort of things that would open up in the case of an outage. Well, having those pinpointed on a map, along with the location of a vehicle, we not only know how close the vehicle is to putting eyes on that issue we're seeing out in the field, but we also know the equipment on that truck is capable of handling that once they get there. And so it's just a much more coordinated effort on behalf of what we're seeing from the computer systems inside out to the trucks out in the field that have to go and service those assets. Everything that we do at Wake Electric is based on safety. The people that have this equipment are working around energized power lines, and everything we do is around safety. So we do such a good job at doing things right. We should have a record of that. Yeah, because you never know what's going to happen. So this allows us to do that from a driver standpoint. Utilities around the country really need to be held accountable for the actions that they do out in the system. Like I said, this is dangerous work, and it's actually very important work. It's critical to the infrastructure of our country. So the safer we can be, the more efficient we can be. I think utilities would benefit from knowing that their drivers are doing the right things and that they're improving each and every day. Because, like I said, the roads are getting more crowded. People are becoming more distracted. We need to make sure we're doing the right thing, and this system helps us keep accountability on that. We showed this to our statewide safety coordinator for the co-ops, and immediately he wants this on the agenda at the safety summit in July, and we're bringing GPS Insight in for that. And they're included in our technology summit in August. So there's a lot of people suddenly paying attention to this now that we've deployed it. Nobody wanted to be the first, but now that we've done it and we don't have horror stories from it, they're ready to hear about it. So it should be cool. We felt comfortable being one of the first in the state to start using this because I felt like it was a pretty low barrier of entry, and there is an exit strategy. Turn off the camera. So it's one of these things we could use it and we could try it out, kind of dip our toe in the water of this technology. And if it was a complete failure, we could back up, turn off the cameras for a while, and relaunch it if we needed to. Fortunately, we haven't had to do that, but it is quite a cultural change to say we're going to start recording you as you work. Not many people like to hear that in an organization, but I think now that they realize it's for the better, they're a lot more accepting of it. They're very responsive, and I think that one of the key things of this technology is ongoing training, because everybody buys this technology for that one thing, whether it be, I want to see this angle, I want to do this with the cameras. And then you dig into the software and find out it does so many other things. So, working with GPS Insight, they've allowed us to take bite-sized steps at the training, and we're still learning, and we'll continue to dig into the software. But they've been really great at accepting the fact that we need 3 or 4 calls to dig into a different part of the technology each time. So we're very grateful that they're willing to do that for us.